It's an overpayment, but sometimes you have to overpay when you have
Yeah.
certain windows of opportunity. And this is what it presented for the Knicks. They know they're close. There's a significant gap that they had to close with the best team in the NBA, which is the Boston Celtics. And the season didn't end the way the Knicks were hoping because of all the injuries. So we really didn't have a great feel for what they would have looked like if all those guys had been healthy. But they know if you got a player available like Mikal Bridges and what he answers for you on both ends, and what you're matching up with. That's a big part of this. And the versatility you need, the defense at those positions that you need. His ability to catch and shoot and play off of primary ball handlers like Brunson and Randall.
We love talking about the ultimate story in the NBA, the who's going to win the title in any given year now that we turn it to 2025. The move this week that made the biggest impact on that, undoubtedly, was the move to get Mikal Bridges to New York. So they get Mikal Bridges and a 2026 second-round pick, the Knicks do, and the Nets receive Bojan Bogdanovic, 5 first-round picks, and a pick swap in 2028, as well as a second in 2025. So here, let me break it down for you just real quick, Legs. The Knicks sent their own picks from 2025, 27, 29, and 31 every other year for 4 years. They also sent the Bucks' first, which they owned, from 2025. So that's the 5 first rounders, and then a swap in 2028. So first of all, before we get into what this means for the Knicks, what about the value of this trade? Does this feel like the right value for a Mikal Bridges? Is it an overpay? Did they get a steal?
It's an overpayment, but sometimes you have to overpay when you have certain windows of opportunity. And this is what it presented for the Knicks. They know they're close. There's a significant gap that they had to close with the best team in the NBA, which is the Boston Celtics. And the season didn't end the way the Knicks were hoping because of all the injuries. So we really didn't have a great feel for what they would have looked like if all those guys had been healthy. But they know if you got a player available like Mikal Bridges and what he answers for you on both ends, and what you're matching up with. That's a big part of this. And the versatility you need, the defense at those positions that you need. His ability to catch and shoot and play off of primary ball handlers like Brunson and Randall. He fits with what they do. If you have that opportunity, Adam, you have to overpay for it. It's like anything in life. If you want to guarantee you get something, you overpay to get it. And so, yeah, it's an overpayment. That's a lot. That's normally the kind of haul you would see maybe for like a former MVP or something, or a first team all league caliber player. Mikal Bridges isn't quite that, but he's a perfect piece, I think, for this puzzle the Knicks are putting together. And a lot of these picks are going to be really low first round picks if the Knicks are good. That's the truth. So there's less known in what they will be with that much uncertainty and such a crapshoot of what those could even end up being. The greatest value is that they represent a trade asset, like a chip sitting there. Well, they cashed some in. They cashed them in at some teams get criticized because they're always unwilling to cash in. At some point, you cash in, and I think Mikal Bridges was a player that's worth cashing in on. So I laud them for doing this. And I know some people on social media were freaking out that this was just robbery to give up that much to get him. I don't view it that way, man. You're very close. He helps maybe put you in a position where you can go toe to toe with the best team in the NBA.
So you said this was the perfect fit. First of all, in terms of value, I agree with you. There is almost no equal value trades in the NBA where both sides, like everything happens in a vacuum. The way it works is you can either have a guy or not. And if it costs you a little extra, it's not about, well, we'll find a different thing. Sometimes it's either you get your guy or you don't get your guy. And for the Knicks, they said, that's our guy. What's it take? That's what it takes. We'll get him. Yeah. But you said it was the perfect fit. And here's the thing. They had an identity last year that really worked. That identity featured, Hartenstein, Mitchell at points. Now it looks like you'll lose one of those guys. You might have to move on from Randall. Why do you feel that this is the perfect fit? Because it almost, makes him maybe a little bit smaller, a little more defensive on the wings. Why do you feel like he was perfect there?
Well, first of all, I'm not assuming you move on from Randall because I don't think that that's going to be an easy thing to do. I don't think that's just easy to trade a guy like Julius Randle, who's got a lot of money coming to him and has a kind of particular type of game. So I don't know that you do that. I think what this does is solidify your bench in a big way. A couple guys that started for them, assuming we move forward with the guys they have.
Okay.
You had big moments out of DiVincenzo and Josh Hart last year in the postseason. They got extended run because they were very shorthanded, and both of those guys proved their value on like really good teams and under pressure circumstances, they rose to the occasion. Well, now if you have a situation where you go Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Randall, and then we'll see what happens with Hartenstein, somebody big in the middle, and you have Hart and DiVincenzo now coming off the bench. Man, oh man, is that a deep team? And guys that are going to play heavy minutes off the bench, or it can be starters when guys are out, whatever it may be. Bridges, he's got great catch and shoot ability from the corners and wings. Like, he can do that. And so if you want to spot him up, he can make you pay by making those shots, but he's better than that. And when he left Phoenix, I didn't know what he was. When he was in Phoenix, that's pretty much all he did. And you knew he had great length, and that's really actually what was the most intriguing aspect of his game coming out of college, was this length and this reach and his ability to guard. And like, that's going to be his immediate impact. And then he was a spot up shooter mainly on the other end. Well, then you started to see a little bit more of that in Phoenix before he got traded, a little bit more off the dribble, a little bit more like attack a closeout guy, get to a mid-range, pull up, adding some stuff like that to his game. But then the trade goes down, he goes to Brooklyn, and it's like he went to a whole nother gear offensively. So you've upgraded what kind of offensive player you have on the floor, period. But he can morph into more of a role player if he needs to be that, because he's been that throughout his career. He's not a ball stopper. He's not a ball dominant player. He can be both. He can be more of a priority for you if Brunson's out of the game and you want to run a little bit more stuff through him. He can get his own offense. If you want to morph him into a spot up guy that can make you pay when you try to double team Brunson or Randall in the post, wherever it may be, he's comfortable doing that too. He's done that a lot throughout his career. And then on the other end, he gives you that sort of physical profile to be able to guard some of the guys you have to in Boston. So that's why I say I think the perfect fit. And I think the demeanor, he doesn't seem to be a guy he doesn't have a big ego. He's going to play with his college buddies, so there's going to be a familiarity and a comfort level there that every player is looking for when they go to a new place. He's got that the day he walks in. You talk about acceptance and feeling natural and comfortable. What more could you ask for if you're Mikal Bridges? So for all those reasons, I think it's a great fit.
Well, let's talk about that part of it real quick. I mean, they posted on Twitter last night. They were in the group chat on FaceTime, all four of them, 10 minutes after the trade happened. And I'll be honest, they probably were on the FaceTime 10 minutes before the trade happened too. But they're on the FaceTime with each other. This is pretty unprecedented for a championship college team to have their four best players meet up together in the NBA. It's pretty unprecedented. And it's really cool. How much do you think that impacts? Because some of this goes, okay, let's just put the names on a spreadsheet. How good is this team? How versatile? But then there's a part of, but they're really connected in a way that every team tries to work there. They're there from day one because they know each other this way. So how big of an impact do you think that makes?
Listen, I think the end of the day, it's one of the talking points if you're the Knicks organization. I'm not saying that's a driving force, that they're going to go grab, every single, Eric Pascal's not coming in there right now. They're not going to get every single Nova guy and just create
Colin
Nova
Gillespie.
2.0.
He was not on that team.
Yeah, but I think it matters. I mean, to your point, it does. Why wouldn't it? He's got great familiarity, and that's always a concern when you go and acquire a player, whether it's free agency or draft, or trade. That's something you're always thinking about. How does he fit with our guys, and not just style of play, but from a personality and demeanor standpoint? You already have a track record here. You already have a history. You've got guys in your locker room, key guys, the most important guy, certainly in Brunson, and then two other major contributors that are going to 100% sign off on it. So why not? The only thing I would say they do now, you go out and you pick up Ryan Arcidiacono, who was in the trade that went to Detroit for Bogdanovic, bring him back in the summer, sign him to a free agent contract, and at some point this year, you put 5 Nova guys on the court at the same time and break some sort of record. I'm sure that's never happened before.
Hey, Colin Gillespie as well. He's he's been in the league a little bit here, so you can get him as well. I want to go back to the Mikal Bridges offense part, because one of the reasons I really love Bridges as a player, it reminds me a bit of Jeremy Grant, a role player his whole life. He goes to Denver, he's a great role player. And then he goes to Detroit, chooses to go there, and he's like, no, I want to be a number one option. And I think everybody thought, well, you're not that. He goes there and does a much better job than I think anybody anticipated, had more to his game than he had shown anybody, but clearly wasn't good enough to be a number one option. Mikal Bridges did it a different way. It wasn't his choice that he got traded to Brooklyn, but it was the same thing. To your point, he fit into a system. He was unselfish. He played his role in Phoenix. He goes to Brooklyn, and I think we were all surprised. Wow, I didn't realize he could carry that much of a load, but it wasn't enough to be a number one guy, as impressive as it was. And so now he goes back and the question for me is, he might be the number two guy now as an offense creator. Like, now you look at it and say, who else is there, if not Randall, of course. So I think that one of my questions is, they found an identity, the Knicks last year, with Brunson having an insane usage, ball's always in his hands. Now you can reduce that load a little bit, but is Mikal Bridges good enough to be a number two in that zone offensively? Like, is that going to be the right guy to spell Brunson when they share the court together?
No, I'm going to be honest with you. I would feel completely differently about this. Well, I shouldn't say completely differently. I would not be as strong on how much of an impact he's going to have and how significant this is for the Knicks if they didn't have Julius Randle, because really? Julius Randle is the key to it for me, to have that, because they missed it last year. You could see it. You know, it ran out of gas from that standpoint. You didn't have another guy really on their whole roster that you could feel comfortable giving the ball to go command traffic, draw extra guys, make the right play out of it, beat single coverage if you get it with a live dribble. Julius Randle could do those things, and he's a very good passer. So he's a little bit of a streaky shooter, but it doesn't matter. He's a dominant offensive player that affects the game because you're forced to send extra people to guard him, and then he will beat you with a pass out of that. That's not necessarily who Mikal Bridges is. So if Randle walks and now Mikal Bridges is your number two, I still really like Mikal Bridges with this group, and I like him overall as a player fitting into a puzzle. But if he's that second piece as opposed to the third, I do feel a little bit differently about it, because you're 100% right. He's not on that level. He's not a guy that's going to run ball screen offense and make great reads out of it and draw an extra guy and drag two defenders and make the play. He's not that. That's not who he is. He's not an ISO guy that you got to worry about sending extra help to. He's a good offensive player that fits into whatever you want to run, and is a highly capable offensive player at times. But if you're asking him every night to be like, that's the other guy on the other side of the court that's got to go, sort of co-star alongside Jalen Brunson, I would feel differently about it.
So one of the questions I have then for this is, they have a great stable now of wing defenders, and we just saw how important wing defense was in the NBA Finals and with what Boston Celtics did. The Thunder added Caruso. The Celtics are who they are. The Knicks now add Bridges. Who of those three, and maybe there's another team out there that you think has the best stable of wing defense? Because I think their hat is now in the ring with Hart, DiVincenzo, Bridges, OG, all of those guys. That's an impressive collection.
As good as anybody probably in this league outside of Boston. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I think that's what this does for you. You just think about, when you have OG Anunoby on one side and Bridges on the other, man, locking into two guys. And then, Julius Randle and Brunson, who aren't as good, but they compete. I mean, they're conscientious defenders. And then you got Hart, and I think DiVincenzo is a very good defender, man. He commits a lot of energy to it. He's very athletic, laterally very good, fights over screens just about as well as anybody in this league out on the perimeter. In fact, it won them a game because he fought over a pick against Miles Turner that led to an offensive foul call that was very important in that series. So I agree that, and that's a big part of what you have to do.
We all silly like the mayor.